Café Anyway. What the?
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1427, 1427. Mike Matthews broadcasting from Café Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Today. And the last place on earth. Today, we hear from Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the engineer. Plus, we get to the segment, the MIKE MATTHEWSMENT Park, where we will take a ride through some amazing stories that you didn't know.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Or maybe you knew a little bit, or maybe you know more than me. I don't know. Maybe you know. Do you know?
Mike's Daily Podcast.
And I will talk about the movie that you may remember called Reality Bites that had Janine Garofalo in there. Have you seen her lately? Yikes! What the hell happened? I don't know. I hope I'm not pointing out something that I shouldn't, because things could happen and they couldn't have been bad or good for her because...
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I know she got sick for a while, but I don't know why. It almost looks like she had some plastic surgery done, but
Mike's
maybe that's just
Daily
none of my business.
Podcast.
At any rate,
Yeah!
she was in Reality Bites, and she looked so, pretty and quirky back then, as Ben Stiller was in that movie, and Winona Ryder. And I've been thinking about that movie lately because I've been hearing songs on the station I work for on the weekend. Look who walked in. And I go, oh my God, that was from the Reality Bites soundtrack. I remember that soundtrack. So we'll look into that little bit of 90s history. But look who just walked in. Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, gift shop supervisor. That's really mean of you to talk about. What's her name? Janine Garofalo. Janine Garofalo like that, oh my God. Look who else walked in. Hello, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere, the engineer. Yes, Mike. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder and is only skin deep.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Oh, yes, words to live by. Thank you, John Deere, the engineer. I will remember that. And thanks for pointing out my bad ways. Let me point out to you, though, that yesterday was National Dog Day. And here's a picture of Basil the Boxer. Guess what? Who knew? As I often feature pictures of Basil the Boxer, my dog. And this was taken on Friday on a beautiful sunset that was happening right over there in Heron Bay. It was also kind of near the Hayward Regional Shoreline, which I featured many a picture of. Only this one was a little bit further north in the San Leandro area. And there was nobody around. It was just so nice to walk on this trail all to myself there with the beautiful waves crashing from the bay and the sunset happening and Basil the Boxer with me. So a lot of celebrities were posting pictures with themselves and their dogs. Sarah Michelle Gellar, who I used to have a massive crush on, and others. Yeah, so she was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but she did a bunch of those 90s movies, and there was something about her. Oh, baby, so right. She had a level 42 thing about her. But whatever level you're on, thank you for listening to the Sunday show today. Sometimes when you talk about Sunday shows, you're talking about politicians going blah, 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 Democrats, blah, 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 Republicans, blah, 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 but not this show. Blah, blah, blah. We have a different sort of blah, blah, blah. We're about all kinds of whatever's happening. Well, it's a daily podcast, as you know. The Friday show featured Marco, because it was the last Friday. He's going to be getting up at the crack of dawn, as we say. And there's all kinds of funny things you can do with the word crack. Crack has many levels of... It's really figured into our psyche, hasn't it, the word crack? There's just no nice way to say that word, but that's what it is. It's very early in the morning that Marco and I have been working together, and so we recorded that short little podcast, and that will be the last one. So what you heard on the last show was recorded at 5:30 in the morning, and I listened to it just today, and I thought to myself, we have entirely way too much energy for 5:30 in the morning. But somehow we have made it, and he is going to be able to wake up later. Good for him. Yay.
All right.
But I wanted to say on National Dog Day, which was yesterday actually, that a lot of people, and the podcast picture is of Basil the Boxer, and people ask me when I'm walking him, hey, can I pet your doggy? And that's awesome. There was a time when I would freak out when people asked me that because I didn't know what to do. Because as a dog owner or a guy who did not ever really own a dog on my own, if there was a dog around, it was basically my mom's responsibility. But now this dog is my responsibility, and we're in this really ultra litigious world now. And I'm like, oh no, if he bites someone, I'm gonna get sued, blah, 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 blah. And I realized after a while, the dog is working on a completely, speaking of levels, he's on this level of, hey, this is a person that I can sniff, and they will pet my head, and I like that. So in time I learned, hey, Basil loves to be petted. So the answer to that question is always yes. But it is good as a parent to teach your kids, don't just walk up to a dog and start petting them. You want to get permission from the owner first and kind of see how the behavior is of that dog. And you can see a lot of the behavior of the dog through the owner, interestingly enough. If the owner is really scattered and frenetic, if that's a word, yeah, it is. I've used it, I think. I don't know if I used it correctly, but yeah, you might want to stay away from that guy's dog because the dog might be also a mental case. Who knows? At any rate, I was talking to someone and I told them my hours that I work every day. And the guy said to me, those hours suck. And I said in my head, yeah, well, being unemployed sucks. Right? No? Do bad hours suck or being unemployed suck? I was not happy being unemployed. And now I work, and my jobs don't suck. I like my jobs that I work at. There could be some improvements in different areas concerning the jobs, but at the same time, I enjoy working, and being unemployed sucked because it took forever to get back to work. It took forever to get people to read my damn resume. You know what? I know we live in a time when jobs reports have been better and stuff, but it's still tough. So, yeah. I just wanted to get that off my chest. And this one last question I had for you. Are all millennials and pre-millennials, or whatever they're calling themselves, are they all going to be getting tattoos? Because it seems like anybody I see who's younger has tattoos on their leg, on their arms, and I don't get it. I know the Generation Xers, which this will dovetail nicely into Reality Bites, which was all about Generation Xers. But I think we're getting entirely way too many tattoos, and ridiculously ugly tattoos, and tattoos that people just grab at that design because they're cheap, and it's going to be painful. There is going to be a day when they're going to go, wait, what? Oh, I got to get that removed. I just go for the natural look. I like naturally how people are. And, but God, the 20-somethings love the tattoos. So I think we should call them Tatooines. Yes, that is a reference to a Star Wars movie. I think one of the ones I liked. But yes, because they get so many tattoos, Tatooines. Which maybe that's what George Lucas was saying back in the day, was making a comment about that in the 70s, although I don't think we were getting quite as many tattoos then. They're everywhere now, and tattoo stores are everywhere, and that's how it is. But Mike'sDailyPodcast.com is tattoo-free. There might be a little guy going LaPlane. I don't know. That's a reference to something you may not know about, but if it is, hooray. Tattoos, or if you're Greg Proops, hooray, hurrah. But tattoos are wonderful for some of you, and good for you with that. Maybe you've got a great story behind your tattoo, and I would love to hear it. You can email me, mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me, too, at 336-MM-DAILY. That's the numbers 3, and then the other number 3, and then the number 6, and then the word MM-DAILY. For the show is daily. And I am Mike Matthews, and my initials are MM. And you can help out the show through the Amazon link at mikesdailypodcast.com. Click on that Amazon link, buy whatever it is you're going to buy, and that helps us out. There's also a link to the PayPal. You can help us out that way and get a special greeting from all the Café Anyway characters. And finally, there's the podcast pictures. Ooh. What happened just then? I don't know. All right, let's get to the story. Let's get to the Mike Matthewsment Park.
Whoa! Mike's Matthewsment Park.
The front panel will close automatically. Please remain seated at all times.
We begin this ride with a quick little jaunt over to the 90s. 1994, to be specific. And a little movie with Ben Stiller, Winona Ryder. Ethan Hawke, that's right. He was also in that movie. And what was the what? Janine Garofalo played the character of Vicky. She said that Parker Posey, Anne Heche, Gwyneth Paltrow, they were all up for the role. The studio wanted Gwyneth Paltrow, but Winona Ryder supported Garofalo for the role after making a connection with her. Before filming began, Garofalo was fired from the production because Stiller did not like her attitude during rehearsal. What a surprise. Garofalo was rehired after Ryder stepped in on her behalf. Garofalo stated later that she has a really poor work ethic and hates to rehearse. Oh, Steve Zahn was in the movie too. By the way, I just finished last week watching all the new Wet Hot Summer. Is it Wet Hot American Summer or Wet Hot Summer? I forget. But it's that Netflix show, that Wet Hot American Summer. It is on Netflix. There was a movie that was originally done in 2001 that had all these actors in it that a lot of them hadn't done movies yet. Bradley Cooper was in the movie. That was his first movie that he ever did, was Wet Hot American Summer back in 2001. Also was the girl she was on Saturday Night Live. Amy Poehler, thank you. It was her first movie. Janine Garofalo actually helped write the movie, helped come up with the movie, and she was in it. There was Elizabeth Banks. She was in it. I think this was her first movie as well. So, and Paul Rudd and many others. Now, they came back and did another one. They updated it. But when they updated it they were supposedly going to be doing a sequel of it. And this was, I think, in 2016, last year. What they ended up doing was a prequel, which was funny because the movie was made 16 years ago. And they're supposed to be playing themselves the day before the story takes place. And so here they are, all almost 2 decades older, trying to play themselves younger. And that was the joke, because the producers of the show are comedians and very funny. So they then did one recently. They came out with a new one called Wet Hot American Summer 10 years later. And they all are now, almost exactly 2 decades older. And that one's it's very silly comedy. But I brought that up because Janine Garofalo there's a making of Wet Hot Summer that you can see on Netflix. I think it's called Hurricane of Fun or something like that. And it's a documentary from Hurricane of Fun, the making of Wet Hot is what it's called. And it's also got that guy that's on the show, the Jimmy Fallon show, that you see him in all the skits. That guy is in it. I can't think of his name. Yeah. So Wet Hot Hurricane of Fun features Janine Garofalo talking to the camera, and she says something to the effect of, she's talking to kids, because there were kids in this, since it takes place in a summer camp. She's talking to the kids and saying, hey kids, here's a word of advice. Try and run into Ben Stiller when he's coming out of a coffee shop. And I guess that's how she got the role in Reality Bites, something that helped. That's not in this Wikipedia article. But the soundtrack to Reality Bites had so many big songs from it, including the number one song, Stay, Lisa Loeb and 9 Stories. And you say, I don't feel it, don't listen anyhow. Now. That was from that movie because she was dating Ethan Hawke at the time. U2 had a song in there, and I know Sylvia, who listens to this podcast, hates U2, but a great song that U2 did, All I Want Is You, that was in it. Crowded House, I've Been Locked Out, that was in it. And, that song, Big Mountain did a cover of Peter Frampton's Baby I Love Your Way, and it was like a reggae version. And I know the radio station that I work for still plays that. And they were from Ventura, California, Oxnard, California, which is where I went to high school. That song was from that movie, the song had come out many, many years before, but Squeeze had a revival of that song, Tempted by the fruit of another. And then there was a song called Revival, Me Fi Me did it. And I don't really know that song. But apparently that was the song that the movie studio said to Ben Stiller, hey, you got to use this song. Or here's a bunch of songs, use the one you liked, and I think Ben Stiller liked that. So that's in the movie. There's music from New Order, Arrested Development, Violent Femmes. Basically an alternative rock, a picture into what alternative rock was in the 90s and a little bit before. Dinosaur Jr., The Posies, World Party, The Indians, and Juliana Hatfield 3 was in that movie as well, the soundtrack as well. So Reality Bites, 1994. Just thought I'd take a little spotlight, look back at it, and how big an impact that soundtrack had on society and culture. But now on to someone who's having an impact on our society and culture, and a lot of people aren't happy about that, Donald Trump. His actions have touched a nerve among Latinos across the political spectrum in the United States, especially this latest one, the pardon of Joe Arpaio, the former Arizona sheriff who was found guilty of criminal contempt after defying a federal judge's order to stop targeting Latinos based solely on suspicion of their immigration status. So such reactions to Trump's pardon reflect the enduring outrage over Mr. Arpaio's actions as a longtime sheriff of Maricopa County, which encompasses Phoenix. Before his ouster by voters in November, Mr. Arpaio gained notoriety as an immigration hardliner and one of Mr. Trump's most prominent supporters in the Southwest. He is 85 now. With the pardon, Mr. Trump is handing some of his most ardent critics away to attack the president. Now, meanwhile, Paul Ryan is discussing this topic, the House Speaker. Yesterday, he criticized Trump's pardon of Arpaio, making him the most prominent Republican to voice concern about the message the president had sent regarding his commitment to the rule of law. A spokesperson for Mr. Ryan said the speaker does not agree with this decision. Law enforcement officials have a special responsibility to respect the rights of everyone in the United States. We should not allow anyone to believe that responsibility is diminished by this pardon. Democrats have joined in condemning the president's actions, which was made public by the White House on Friday night. They buried it. That's the Friday night bury. You bury it. The White House buries stories they really don't want the media to talk about late as the week is ending. And Hurricane Harvey, that's when Hurricane Harvey was making landfall, and Speaking of which, the Coast Guard rescued at least 32 people from several boats in Texas waters Friday and Saturday as a result of Hurricane Harvey, which was downgraded to a tropical storm, but it is dumping a lot of water on a lot of Texas and in Houston. It's been badly flooded. One video released by the Coast Guard shows a man in a life jacket being pulled to shore as a vessel called the Signet Enterprise languishes in the background with its stern submerged. Officials said the 4 people airlifted from that scene were among 15 who were rescued near Port Aransas, Texas. This was Saturday. 7 had been aboard a tugboat called Sabine. The rescues there involved 2 helicopters. Officials had warned Texans to stay off the water, saying the Coast Guard's search and rescue capabilities would degrade as storm conditions strengthened. But some people still were out on the water. Now, going back to Arizona, John McCain warned, the senator from that state, he warned Friday against any plans to push transgender people from the military following new guidelines from President Trump. McCain, the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, said it would be a step in the wrong direction to force currently serving transgender individuals to leave the military solely on the basis of their gender identity rather than medical and readiness standards that should always be at the heart of Department of Defense personnel policy. The Pentagon's ongoing study on this issue should be completed before any decisions are made with regard to accession. The Senate Armed Services Committee will continue to conduct oversight on this important issue, he said. Trump signed a memo on Friday instructing the Defense Department to stop accepting transgender individuals who want to enlist in the military, while instructing Defense Secretary James Mattis to explore how to handle those currently in the armed forces. Jeez. He first announced the ban in a tweet last month. The guy's got some issues. What can you say? And you know who else has issues? HBO. Because hackers leaked an apparent outline of the season 7 finale to Game of Thrones. Who cares about Game of Thrones? Games of Thrones. But on Friday, they leaked an outline. The document was part of the latest information dump stemming from a recent breach of the network system. The outline for the finale that airs today, called The Dragon and the Wolf, is part of a lengthy document entitled Preliminary Outline. It is dated April 26th of last year and contains details about every Game of Thrones episode. The release, referred to as the 6th wave of HBO leak by hackers calling themselves Mr. Smith, also includes contracts for people employed by the show. This is from The Wrap. And HBO has stated regarding the continuing leaks, it has been widely reported that there was a cyber incident at HBO. The hacker may continue to drop bits and pieces of stolen information in an attempt to generate media attention. That's a game we're not going to participate in. Recent data dumps by the hackers have included Game of Thrones scripts, network documents, internal emails, and episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm, Ballers, and Insecure. They released a ransom notice that they apparently sent to HBO demanding over $6 million worth of Bitcoin to prevent leaks. Damn Bitcoin. But I'm not a fan of HBO, I'll be honest, as I've mentioned in other shows. And I believe that it is marketed towards fraternity, frat people. Fretters. Now, Sylvia pointed out, but what about the TV show, the one that's also coming out, new one, Silicon Valley? Well, yeah, that's about nerds, techie people, smart engineers in that field. Maybe not fratters. Maybe that wouldn't appeal to them, but so that was outlined in a previous podcast. I won't go into that. But SoftWorks, a public-private technology incubator with funding from the U.S. Special Operations Command, is gearing up to kick off a series of unorthodox events to gather information and data about new developments in the world of small drones that will wrap up with an apparent drone demolition derby. This is a new thing. Are you excited about it? Drone derby. Demolition derby. The goal is to explore systems and equipment that could be a benefit to U.S. military operations. But looking at the participants, it also seems like an opportunity to highlight the growing threat of tiny unmanned aircraft to American troops. And so that is going on with Softworks. It will host all of this in a 7,000 square foot warehouse it rented in Tampa, Florida, which is also where its main office is located. Now, I saw a drone on that walk when I took that picture with Basil, and I have to tell you this about drone users in the Bay Area. And I think that's where a lot of the thought is coming from, that drones, like you've got your Amazon, your Jeff Bezos saying, yeah, we'll do delivery with drones, but they don't realize that in the rest of the country, a low flying model airplane helicopter deal carrying some kind of someone's stuff, that's an easy target. That's what do you call it? Someone will get their hunting rifle out and blow that out of the sky and grab whatever it was carrying. And dogs also love drones. They love to jump up and grab them. Not the best thing for a dog. Basil almost did it the other day. There was a low-flying drone, and he went right after it. I had to go and grab him. And I don't know, what the blades, if they do any damage to his face, but that's definitely a thing. Dogs want to chase those. They look like little birds flying close to the ground. They want to go and get them. So there's a lot of threats to drones, and drones can be a lot of threats to us. I'm finishing up watching the Sherlock series with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman, and in the latest episode, there's a drone that comes into Sherlock Holmes' apartment on Baker Street there, and I turned off the show at that point because it was really late. So don't tell me what happens next. But I think it has a bomb on it and blows up. I don't know. But we'll see. And finally, as we go outside of Café Anyway, we're bringing you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Hey, we're almost at half an hour. Most people have a handful of go-to apps that never leave their home screen. Want to know what some of them are? As part of the 2017 U.S. Mobile App Report, ComScore recently surveyed phone owners 18 and up about the apps they need to have on their home screens, whether by themselves or grouped with other apps in a folder. For most people, Google apps like Maps, Gmail, YouTube, they took precedence, while others preferred keeping their social networking apps front and center. Here are the 10 apps most people keep on their home screen. Apple App Store. Unless you have a Samsung, then you probably have Google Play. Instagram. Yeah, that's true with me. And Lena Misitzis always has a new story at the very front. And I see Lena Misitzi and her very bizarre, stories on Instagram to me when you see them. And if you don't want to watch them, you just tap them. But I honestly would love to just take that off of my Instagram app. But when I watch these stories, Lena Misitzis is pretty funny. I also have Nikki Glazer, the comedian, and she can be funny. She likes to show her little dogs all the time. And then you've got your Kate Upton, who always shows herself dancing. No, she's never naked. Never in a bikini. She keeps clothed. And then my various other friends doing their stories. But when they post things, when you look through the stories, and the story ends and the next one starts, it feels very much to me like Amélie. Did you ever see the movie Amélie, the French movie? And there's a guy in that movie called the Fragile Man. And he keeps sending Amélie, played by Audrey Tautou, the beautiful Audrey Tautou, keeps sending to her these video. Back then, this movie came out in 2000. He sends her videotape, these video cassettes, and she pops the videotapes in, and it'll be these random things that he pulled off a television, like a horse running down a street, a busy, crowded city street, just running down the street, or a one-legged man walking down the street and then suddenly doing a backflip in the air, and he just these random things he keeps sending her. That to me is what Instagram stories is. So I kind of have an Amelie moment when I'm watching those. That's the level I'm on. Here's Google Play Store at number 3 or number 8. Number 7, Google Search. Although I've been using Bing more because I get points when I search on Bing. YouTube, Facebook Messenger. I hate Facebook Messenger. It's pointless to me. Waste of memory. Amazon. See, the thing about Amazon, the Amazon app, and of course, you should go through Mike'sDailyPodcast.com first and then look for the Amazon link before you buy anything, because that helps us out. But to me, I would rather search other webs or do that, what's it called? Google Shopping, which I don't know if they have an app for that yet, but you can find that when you're searching on the web. Because that way, they show you all these different sites you can go to, not just Amazon. And some of these other sites are way cheaper than Amazon. Google Maps, well, that's absolutely necessary. There's not a day that goes by I don't use Google Apps. Gmail, Facebook was number 1. And I do not have the Facebook app on my phone. I prefer to just go to Facebook through my web browser, through Chrome. I don't like having see, that's 2 apps you would have from Facebook on your phone then. And you know what? They just don't deserve your time. Really. That's how I feel about it. But whatever level you're on, if you're a Facebook junkie and want to waste your life looking at it. Now, I've just mentioned I liked Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, so, well, that's that. That's the show. That's it. Go hug a dog today. Go hug a millennial, a Tatooine today. Have a wonderful day, and we'll try and do one for Monday and all the days next week. We shall see how that goes, but next show, it'll be Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at Mike'sDailyPodcast.com.
Email Mike now at Mike'sDailyPodcast@gmail.com.